I'd like now to introduce Andrew Demetriou. You probably noticed the media throng outside. I'd love to say that was because of the abundance of interest in We Speak Your Language, but I think it had something to do with grass at Etihad Stadium. So I'd like to introduce Andrew. Andrew, as many of you know, is the chair of the Australian Multicultural Advisory Council, and since 2003 has been the CEO of the AFL, another religious institution in Melbourne. Within both of these roles, he's been exposed to a range of issues confronting people from multicultural backgrounds. So please welcome me in welcoming Andrew.
Thank you for that very kind invitation. And I did meet the media out the front, and I tried to explain to them that I'd be happy to talk about the Etihad service in 9 different languages, and they should look at the screen, and I'll try to pump up the launch and the service here, but they weren't interested. So I apologise for that. Thank you very much for the invitation to come and speak at what I think is a very, very important launch. I'm told that when trying to decide on a speaker today, it came down to a choice of 2 names. Myself and a popular and rather well-known former employee of Slater and Gordon, which when I first thought about it was very flattering to be considered alongside the current Prime Minister of Australia. Now, given that Julia Gillard is travelling and busy travelling around the country campaigning and being chased by an ever-growing media pack, I think I now have a better idea as to why she couldn't be here today, and that I am. I always enjoy coming to these gatherings, and maybe it's because of my Cypriot heritage, but I like to think I feel at home amongst the multicultural community. My role as the chair of the Australian Multicultural Advisory Council has also given me a deeper appreciation and understanding of the issues which affect migrant communities. It's also brought me into contact with a range of people who give so much of their time to assisting these communities, and people such as Paris Aristotle, a tireless and highly respected advocate for refugees in this country, and it's good to see Paris here today, and Paris will be speaking shortly. I can't think of a better place to launch this initiative than here at Melbourne's Immigration Museum, a place that celebrates the extraordinary journeys and stories of so many migrants who have helped enrich Australia. And the reason we are here today is to launch a new national and multicultural helpline to give free legal advice to people from a diverse range of cultures and backgrounds. Many migrants and refugees arrive in Australia with little prior knowledge about Australian laws and our legal system. We're all aware of the issues that can affect new arrivals from overseas, highlighted by the very unfortunate attacks on Indian students here in Melbourne. But this new helpline will offer services in a range of languages, including Arabic, Greek, Italian, Vietnamese, Cantonese and Mandarin, as you've already heard. There will be a new multicultural website and online cross-cultural communication training. And what's great about that is that this was one of the key recommendations of AMAC's recent report to the federal government titled The People of Australia, to strengthen and improve services to help migrant communities establish themselves and become self-reliant. I also believe it's important that all organisations, including law firms and our legal institutions, reflect a cross-section of our very diverse Australian community. It's something we're very conscious of at the AFL, and that's why there are now a number of multicultural officers working across not just the AFL, but also our clubs. We've even got a bloke called Demetriou running it. Actually, when you think about the history of our great game, it probably makes perfect sense. After all, this is a game which has thrown names such as Barassi, Jezelenko, Dacos, Koutafidis, and I could go on and on. Recently we held the National Under-16 Championships in Sydney. For the first time, these included a World 18 and a team from the South Pacific. Our World team included players from South Africa, Sudan, Iraq, China, Canada and Argentina, while countries such as Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Tonga and Nauru were represented in the South Pacific team. Some of the stories to emerge from that week in Sydney were truly inspiring. Take the 2 Sudanese boys who came together to play in the World team only to discover that they were first cousins. Almost by accident, they discovered their mothers are biological sisters who had been torn apart by the civil war in Sudan. When you think about it, an extraordinary and life-changing event. Take the young Balinese lad whose father was killed in the Bali bombings, befriended by Jason McCartney, also badly injured in the attacks. He has since moved to Melbourne with his mother and taken up Australian football. Most importantly, has given him an opportunity to connect with his new community. Connecting is very important for migrants. As the son of migrants, sport gave my brothers and I a chance to connect with the community and make new friends. It also gave us opportunity. And sport, I believe, also has a unique way of bringing people together. You'll see it in the Outer at the MCG this Saturday afternoon. People not just from different cultural and religious backgrounds, but different socio-economic groups, young and old. It's why we're so excited about moving into new communities like Western Sydney. Sydney is not only the biggest market in Australia, but it also has the highest number of people born overseas of any city in this country. For more than 1 million residents, English is their second language. A large number of these people live in Western Sydney. It's a community representing so many cultural backgrounds, religions and races. We want to help build the first AFL team in Greater Western Sydney because the story of this community in many ways represents the AFL community. Its socio-economic mix is diverse, and above all, it's a community that is proud, very proud of its diversity. That celebrates that diversity just as we celebrate and take pride in the mix of people who play, support and are involved in our game. Some people have criticised the idea and say that the cultural diversity of Greater Western Sydney is why an AFL team can't work. I look at the diversity of Greater Western Sydney and see exactly why it can. We're unashamedly proud of the work that we have done at the AFL to embrace multicultural Australia. Since it started in 2005, our multicultural program has ensured that more than 50,000 people from migrant families have experienced AFL games and come into contact with their own local football communities. Our multicultural football schools program has been introduced into more than 200 schools and exposed nearly 20,000 students to the game. And we now have, and we're very proud to have 12 multicultural development officers working across 4 states. And last year, we held our inaugural Victorian Multicultural Academy camp during Grand Final week. 25 cultural backgrounds were represented at that camp, including Greek, Sudanese, Vietnamese, Chinese, Maltese and Turkish. And one of the most pleasing aspects of the multicultural program has been the development of the young African players. Players like Majak Dor, who was born in Sudan and immigrated to Australia 7 years ago and is now on North Melbourne's rookie list. I was at a launch of a report into the Australian Africans a month or so back where Majak spoke about the challenges and how football had helped to shape what he wanted to do in life. What an impressive young man and an impressive young leader for our community. Recently, the AFL was shortlisted for an International Beyond Sport Award for recognition of its multicultural program. Beyond Sport is a global organisation that promotes, develops and funds the use of sport to drive positive social change across the world. The AFL's multicultural program is one of 3 projects shortlisted under Sport Federation or Governing Body of the Year category and was selected from over 350 entries from more than 115 countries which submitted applications to this year's awards. As proud as we are of our achievements, we also realise we have some way to go. While our racial and religious vilification code has played a very big part in changing behaviour on and off the field, there are still small pockets of intolerance, and I'm conscious of our need to continue to play a role in educating the community. And that's why our engagement with multicultural communities and Indigenous players will continue to deepen. More than 11%, some 85 players, of our playing group is Indigenous. Names like Lance Franklin, Cyril Rioli, Liam Jurrah and Leon Davis. We hope this number will continue to grow as we reach out to communities across Australia. Hasn't been an easy journey, It took painful experiences to force a change in direction for our game. The refusal of Nicky Winmar and Michael Long to accept racist taunts forced Australian football to wake up. And the development of a racial and religious vilification code, the first for Australian sport, meant Indigenous players or those from multicultural backgrounds could no longer be abused for the colour of their skin or cultural background. It took courage and leadership to effect change, real change. It's easy to make a popular decision, but it's harder to make the right one. And it's easy to be seen to be doing something as opposed to actually doing something. One of the things I love about Australian football, and one of the reasons I'm in this job, is I can say hand on my heart that it's a game for anyone and everyone. It's inclusive, accessible and affordable. It's a game that doesn't discriminate, but it's also a game that brings people together. It's a game that doesn't turn its back on people and offers a helping hand to those in need. And this is the measure of any humane and decent society, and football shouldn't be any different. As we begin a new decade, I believe Australia has much to be proud of. We live in a mature, diverse and culturally inclusive country, but we still face challenges. We must never, ever become complacent. We must always guard against attitudes which promote ignorance, fear and appeal to our worst nature. And in the words of Abraham Lincoln, we must appeal to our better angels of our nature. And one of the reasons Australia has been such a success story is because historically we have embraced newcomers. We embrace different cultures and people from different backgrounds, whether they are immigrants, refugees or asylum seekers. We are by nature a compassionate and humane society. It's not something we should apologise for or be afraid to embrace. Indeed, it's something we should be very, very proud of. In my role as Chair of AMAC, we spent a lot of time talking about immigration and its positive impact on Australia. We need to be careful that we don't lose sight of that in the current debate about immigration. We've had a largely bipartisan approach to immigration since 1950, and it's important to maintain this approach and recognise that so many migrants, such as Frank Lowy, Avi Parvo, Eve Marlap, Victor Chang and Ian Fraser, and so many others, have made such a wonderful, wonderful contribution to building our community. Since 1945, nearly 7 million people have migrated to Australia. The post-war arrivals of millions of people from more than 180 countries must be ranked among Australia's greatest achievements. Today, 1 in 4 of Australia's 22 million people were born overseas. 45% were either born overseas or have a parent who was, and 4 million who speak a language in addition to English. And at any one time, almost 1 million people are temporarily in Australia. Tourists, international students and skilled workers taking advantage of the opportunities to help build Australia's economy and society. And as a nation, I hope that we continue to celebrate the contribution migrants make to this country. Each wave of immigration has brought with it new skills, new ambitions and new energy, while blending the foundations established by previous waves of people from all over. New cultures bring new ideas, fertilising and improving the old. All this has made Australia a stronger, more tolerant and more outward-looking nation. We've seen it in fields of endeavour such as science, the arts, education, fashion, food and sport, and we've experienced it right across the community. And as AMAC said in its report, and I quote, "This Australia is very different to the Australia of the mid-20th century. It is more prosperous, more independent, more varied, cosmopolitan and more open to the world. Yet much is unchanged. Our political and legal institutions, our democracy, our liking for freedom and order and our love of the beach, bush and sport." And it went on to say, it is in the interests of all Australian governments to promote the idea that respect and cultural understanding are not just desirable states of mind, but elements of our way of life, as natural to a modern democracy as discrimination and prejudice are foreign to it. I congratulate Slater and Gordon on this important initiative and look forward to continuing to work with the community to strengthen our vibrant and multicultural future. Thank you.